I'd like to call to order this Monday, February 10th, 2025 meeting of the East Hampton Board of Education. If you would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It is the mission of the East Hampton Public Schools to partner with our families and community to prepare confident, compassionate, and collaborative learners who navigate a complex global society. We do not have any recognitions this evening. Liaisons, do we have any interboard liaisons? I don't, my screen is not on, so I can't see. Shelley, do we have anyone on Zoom? Neil. Okay, Neil did tell me that he was going to be watching, but he does not have a report this evening. So, let's try to get this screen going. We are up to audience of citizens. If there's anyone who would like to speak, we ask you to please come to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Anyone? There will be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Okay. Our next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the January 27, 2025 meeting?
Oh, second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Committee reports. Student representatives.
Good evening. Triumph Music Society have been selling musicgrams, and students were able to buy a song to be played for a friend for $5, and all proceeds are going to go to Triumph. Members of the Triumph Society will start playing the songs for students this week in honor of Valentine's Day, so we're really excited for that. National Honor Society had a meeting on Friday morning. They discussed more fundraising opportunities for schools, the Big Brother Big Sister service opportunities, and continue to plan events for the upcoming talent show. NRS Club had their monthly meeting after school on Wednesday. They started talking about February and early March service opportunities, and they also discussed student interest in RILA, the leadership seminar. NRS Club ended with participants making teacher appreciation cards that will be passed out on Thursday. Gaming Club today had a meeting after school, and finally a Valentine's Day bake sale will be hosted by the class of 2027. This week, students and teachers will be able to purchase sweet treats, and all proceeds will go to the class of 2027.
Boys basketball is 12-5. They play tonight against Morgan at home. The senior night ceremony will start at 6:30 and tip-off is at 7 o'clock. They also play Wednesday night against Cromwell away and Friday night against Canton at home. Girls basketball is 10-8. They play against Morgan tomorrow night and Windham Tech on Friday night at home. Indoor track came in 7th overall, with many athletes earning new personal records in their individual events and are very excited for states. And cheer came in 2nd in the shoreline meet. They gave excellent effort and are looking forward to the state competition. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Updates from administrators.
Good evening. We are officially in the second half of the school year as we celebrated halfway day since our last board meeting, and we just celebrated the 100th day of school last week. And that really signifies a mid-year check-in in many ways. We have closed our mid-year assessment window where our teachers collect performance data on students in order to measure their growth in the first half of the school year and proactively plan for the second half of the year. So those assessments are all completed, and our specialists and teachers and administrators are reviewing that data now. The midpoint of the school year also means that we are engaged in our mid-year meetings as part of our educator development and evaluation plan. And this process is in place for all of our teachers and certified staff. Administrators will be meeting with teachers over the next few weeks to review the goals teachers set in the fall related to student achievement, or their classroom practice. This Friday, our district has a professional learning day scheduled for all certified staff. We will officially launch Wit and Wisdom with our new K-3 literacy program, as you know, with the Memorial School teachers. As we'll really spend the second half of this year preparing for implementation next fall. So we've been doing some piloting, as I've mentioned, and we have one classroom on each grade level piloting the program. Our success coaches, as we're calling them, they're really our pioneers. But in addition, we're doing formal training with all of our staff, and Friday is the first of several opportunities our teachers will have to plan and prepare for this new program. And I'm happy to report it's generating a lot of excitement from those pilot classrooms. We're really pleased with what we're seeing. I'd also like to take this opportunity to highlight the efforts of our literacy specialist team, who have been dedicated to the process of selecting and implementing Wit and Wisdom. Abby Scarbellis and Carrie Liebler serve as literacy specialists at Memorial School, and Mindy Wilkie serves as center school literacy specialist, but also our K-8 literacy coordinator. And they have all worked incredibly hard to ensure that this first major professional learning event in support of this endeavor is a tremendous success. They also just facilitated our World Read Aloud Day celebrations that you'll likely hear about with our library media team. And those two groups will be gearing up for our Read Across America celebrations in a couple of weeks. So I just really wanted to thank them for their efforts. On Friday, in addition to the Wit and Wisdom launch at Memorial School, we'll have key initiatives addressed at every school. So East Hampton High School will heavily focus their time on the NEASC accreditation process, while East Hampton Middle School plans to focus on the use of mid-year data to drive instructional planning by department. Of note, at our middle school, the math department will continue to focus on their implementation of illustrative mathematics. As you know, this is year 2 for grades 6 and 7, but we're still in year 1 with 8th grade. So there's a lot of work around that implementation as well. And we look forward to this shared time to continue to strengthen our efforts for student success. So there's a lot of exciting things happening across the district. In addition, we're gearing up. It's hard to believe, but that really in March, we'll start the process of our major spring summative assessments as required by the Connecticut State Department of Education. We'll kick off with the Next Generation Science Standards Assessment at the high school before moving into the Connecticut SAT School Day. And finally, the Smarter Balanced Assessment for reading and mathematics in grades 3 through 8. So that process really kicks off in March. The bulk of the assessing is done in April and early May, but that means we're heavily planning for that now. So that's a busy project. We're working with the special ed team leaders, the literacy and math specialists and building administration to ensure those schedules are properly planned, that all student needs are addressed, and testing scenarios for all are planned out in alignment with their individual plans. So that project is well underway. We look forward to that opportunity to show everyone's growth this spring. And then additionally, again, it's hard to believe, but we're already be starting planning for next year as scheduling starts to get underway at our middle and high school in the coming weeks. So thank you very much.
Good evening. On February 3rd, we celebrated National School Counselor Appreciation. We took a moment to thank our amazing counseling team, Mrs. Delora, Mrs. Kasparowski, Mrs. Adams, and Dr. Fresca-Haas, for all they do for Memorial students and families. Last week, Memorial was bustling with activities. We started the week off with Magical Monday in our school cafeteria. Kate Caselli and the entire kitchen staff did a wonderful job organizing and facilitating the event. Additionally, an exceptional team of volunteers came to help set up beforehand and freshened up the caf in between each lunch wave. Our school cafeteria looked beautifully decorated, complete with matching tablecloths and beautiful decorations. Many of our cheetahs wore dazzling ensembles and used their best manners. On Monday evening, 2 of our cheetahs were honored at the annual Cass Elementary Art Recognition for their achievement and perseverance in art education. Reagan Sheehan and Teddy Bish were treated to an evening at the AquaTurf Club. They had delicious food, magicians, balloon art, character drawings, and a drum performance. During the month of February, we are learning about the profile of the graduate principal, Caring. Congratulations to our first graders for caring for their community. In recognition of the 100th day of school, they set out to collect 100 food items for the East Hampton Food Bank. Over the 3-week period of time, they not only did they reach their goal, they smashed it. They were able to donate 417 items to those in need. Memorial School is proud to announce the opening of the Memorial Post. Students are now able to write letters to their friends at school. The vision of the Memorial Post is to use letter writing to promote caring and kindness in our school community. Each week, students may drop off their letters in the mailbox that's located in our school lobby. Our letters will be delivered by the cutest Mrs. Gibson's postal workers. Last Wednesday, February 5th, was the 100th day of school. Kindergarten through second grade classrooms recognize this special day in a variety of ways. Some students dressed like they were 100 years old, others created 100-day projects and snacks, and everyone took advantage of the many ways to incorporate numeracy by counting and grouping and discussing place value. Lastly, that same day, it was World Read Aloud Day. World Read Aloud Day was founded by the organization called Lit World to celebrate the power of reading aloud to create community and amplify news stories, and to advocate for literacy as a foundational human right. Students listened to wonderful read-alouds throughout the day, visited the cozy winter lodge that was set up by Mrs. Flannery and Mrs. Scarvellis, and special visitors. Thank you.
Good evening. Over the past several weeks, the students at Center School have been engaged in a variety of educational experiences. Most recently, fourth grade students have focused on understanding and working with fractions and decimals during math instruction. Learning activities have included comparing fractions with like and unlike denominators and identifying equivalent fractions. And understandings of these concepts were gained through the use of various visual models that include fraction strips, number lines, and geoboards. Fifth grade mathematicians also were working with decimals and fractions and using them across the 4 operations. This unit saw students engage in workplace activities and create their own division story problems while employing critical thinking and having vocabulary-rich discussions. In ELA, fifth graders continue their learning involving the fantasy genre. Students have been transported to mystical lands and met magical characters in their reading. As authors and illustrators, they have been incredibly creative and been afforded the opportunity to craft and create their own works of fantasy. The most recent ELA unit of study for our fourth graders revolved around social issues. During this unit, students conducted in-depth analysis by comparing and contrasting issues across texts. And by reading and researching around the topic, students were then tasked with developing social action proposals. Last Monday, Center School also celebrated fifth graders Bodhi Shumbo Jenks and Claire Roberge at the Connecticut Association of Schools Elementary Arts Banquet. Bodhi was recognized for his skills in the field of visual arts, and Claire for her accomplishments as a musician and performer. Both students exhibit high levels of working collaboratively and were nominated by our art teacher and music teacher. The Center School Spelling Bee was crowned the Center School Spelling Bee champion was crowned last week. Nolan Zavatero earned the top spot. Each fourth and fifth grade homeroom sent a class champion to the finals. Families of the finalists were invited to watch the spelling bee in person at Center School, and we created a live stream for all the classrooms to tune in and watch also. Nolan now moves on to the Scripps National Spelling Bee Regional Final, which will be held at St. Joseph University in West Hartford on March 9th. And Invention Convention is wrapping up this week for the Center School portion. Students that are engaged in the Invention Convention identified a problem in their world, brainstormed a solution, and ultimately created a prototype of their invention. Inventors and their creations are judged on many criteria that include but are not limited to originality, problem solving, and documentation. The judging pool, which will be at our school Wednesday afternoon, consists of members of the East Hampton Rotary Club and the student-based Interact Club at the high school. Center School appreciates and values our relationships with these community partners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. At East Hampton Middle School, throughout the month of February, we have multiple opportunities for our 8th graders to learn about East Hampton High School and receive support in scheduling. Tomorrow, members of the East Hampton High School counseling team will introduce themselves to our 8th graders and provide a brief overview of the scheduling process and courses available. 8th graders will receive the presentation from the guidance counselor they will be assigned to them next year. Next, our 8th graders will visit the high school on February 12th and 13th, where they will get a tour of the building, learn about the classes and electives available for them, and be introduced to the graduation requirements. During our specials classes, February 24th and 25th, students will be assisted with selecting classes on PowerSchool with the support of our guidance counselors and the East Hampton High School guidance team. We are eager as always to support our students and families with this process and have snow dates set for all of these events. February is Heart Health Month, a time to raise awareness about cardiovascular health and encourage healthy habits for students, families, and staff. A strong heart leads to a healthier life, and small changes can make a big difference. Our physical education department will be sharing tips, activities, and resources throughout the month to support heart health for our students and staff. We are starting off by asking students to join us in the movement challenge to keep our hearts healthy and strong. We will keep track of our progress, and the winning homerooms with the most movement in the month will receive a surprise along with our PBS points for their grade level. Our efforts are to kick off the importance of movement as we begin in March with the physical fitness assessments in grades 6 through 8. 2 weeks ago, East Hampton Middle School also had our second annual Scripps Spelling Bee final round. Congratulations to all of our finalists, and congratulations to our school champion, Avery Guild. Avery will go on to compete at the State Spelling Bee in March in West Hartford, and we wish Avery the best of luck. We wanted to provide a thank you to our East Hampton Middle School PTO for generously donating a free t-shirt to each student in the school. The shirt is specific to their team color. We are excited to wear them this Thursday for our next PBIS pep rally, where we will be holding a student-requested staff versus student basketball game. We will also be featuring a performance by the cheerleading team and other fun competitions. Lastly, we are excited for our teacher professional development on Friday, where we will analyze iReady results across content areas to tailor instruction based on student progress. Our focus will be on adjusting instruction to effectively support small groups and enhance learning outcomes for students. Thank you.
Evening. I'd like to begin by congratulating seniors Will Nathus and Olivia DiMartino. They are the East Hampton High School recipients of the CAS CIAC Scholar Athlete Award. 2 athletes are chosen from every school around the state. Will and Olivia will be honored at the Scholar Athlete Banquet at the AquaTurf in May. This Wednesday, our Triam Music Honor Society induction ceremony will take place at 5:30 prior to our winter concert. Congratulations to all of our inductees who were chosen on the basis of their leadership and dedication to the music program at East Hampton High School. And if you're available after 6:30 in the evening, please join us for our winter concert. As a number of people have already said, we are really excited to welcome the class of 2029 to East Hampton High School. Our counselors will be heading down to the middle school this week, and then 8th graders will be joining us on Wednesday and Thursday for some words of welcome from the principal, as well as a tour of the high school and our great elective opportunities. And our 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students will be participating in the scheduling process and choosing their classes for next year in the coming weeks. And on February 25th, Mrs. Rodowitz and I, we have a new opportunity and event for our 8th grade families. And we're going to guide them through the scheduling process. So once their students have chosen their classes, we're going to review all that information with them and answer any questions they have and just make sure they're choosing the appropriate classes for their children for next year. Thank you very much.
All right, subcommittee updates, personnel. No report, policy and curriculum.
Oh, that's right.
That'd be a-
2 agenda items tonight, that's it.
Right. Finance, transportation, and buildings and grounds, we did actually meet via Zoom, due to the weather last week, and just did a little bit of an update on fiscal year 26, and a little bit of discussion. And also, we did have a tri-board meeting with Board of Education and the Board of Finance, and the Town Council last week, just to talk a little bit about expectations for the upcoming budget season. Communication. Superintendent's report.
Good evening, members of the board. Nice to see you all this evening. So I'm going to go very briefly because I know we have budget deliberations that are coming up. So first, I also would like to just make note of the fact that last week we did celebrate National School Counselors Week, and we want to recognize all of our mental health specialists within our schools and the great work that they do. They make wonderful contributions to our students and to our families in helping making our schools feel welcoming environments, but also providing the much needed supports to our students. So I do want to give recognition to them. The second, as Chair Kohler had just mentioned, we did host the tri-board meeting of the 3 boards last week. It was very productive conversations. Business Manager Aceta as well as myself were there. We had presented our current fiscal year 25 operations and where we're currently situated financially. And in addition to that, we did have an opportunity to discuss some revenue projections for the town during that conversation for fiscal year 26, as well as some expense projections for both the Board of Education as well as for the town. So it was good to have all three boards together right at the preliminary onset of really those budget deliberations, because as you know, as board members, they will really pick up over the next several weeks. But these conversations have all been very, very productive, and it's been nice to have the boards come together. And in my conversations with Town Manager Cox, we're looking to really carry those forward, especially now as we're getting into a very difficult period with budgets, and it's beyond the town of East Hampton. This is really relevant to the state and federal government and how important it is that community agencies work together to meet the needs and also to support the communities as we navigate these tough financial times. With that, I'm going to leave the last piece here relevant to the governor's budget. So with that conversation that was held last week, there has been new information that has obviously come to light for all of us, and that has to do with the governor's budget proposal that was issued last Thursday through the Office of Policy and Management, and by virtue of his presentation to the legislature. A couple of key factors which we'll include within our conversations with the Board of Education. The first is that there has not been a change in the governor's budget proposal to change the educational cost sharing formula reduction that was to take place over the next 10 years. So with that, our projections for East Hampton would be that we would see a decrease of about $40,000, I believe it's $40,000 that we're looking at a reduction for the upcoming fiscal year based on it. Keeping in mind that that conversation, albeit was part of the governor's proposal, there still is a lot of time between now and the end of the legislative season. Well, this will be brought up over the course of the legislative season, and whether or not there might be further address to this. We have heard this in the past where there were going to be reductions, and then there was a status quo hold, which helped our communities in understanding the fiscal sort of uncertainties of what's happening with state and federal dollars. That very well could be an outcome for this year. So I certainly do not want to alarm or create a sense of concern, at least in this moment. We still have some time before the legislature has had an opportunity to really discuss what they feel is best to do with ECS. The second is a larger concern, and this correlates directly with our fiscal planning for the upcoming fiscal year. And that was that in the governor's proposal, there was a flat funding of excess costs for fiscal year 26. So currently, as it situates, there's about $181 million, which is situated in that fund. And in the governor's proposal, it would remain flat for fiscal year 26. There was a shortfall that was experienced last year where it was at $181 million. We're projecting, as I had noted in your budget materials, that it would likely only increase, or the demand from communities would increase for this year. So the flat funding for this year alone could be very troublesome. But to know that in the biennial budget proposal of the governor, that there is flat funding for yet a third year, which would be next year, where those costs could be even further than they are from this year. So that is concerning. And then the second is that for the second year of the biennial budget for excess costs, there was a $40 million proposed increase in that area. So with that being said, there certainly are going to need to be further discussions about how we're going to budget for the excess costs within our fiscal plan. But once again, there is a lot of time between now and the end of the legislative session. And there are many, many bill proposals, and this has been raised by legislators from across the state of Connecticut. So I do very much believe there will be further conversations about this. So once again, not to cause greater concern or alarm, but it is something we have to be mindful of as we plan fiscally. And with that, that was really my last big update. And the other piece is that I am starting to get the inquiries based on the snow days as to when the last day of school is. So I'm almost, I almost don't want to say in this moment, because I think we're headed into another, couple of, weather events, but right now it is Thursday, noon, well. And that concludes my superintendent's announcements.
Did you want to touch on any enrollment stuff tonight or no change?
Sure. So since last month, we have had a reduction of 9 students across the district, not a significant shift. 3 were at Memorial School. The rest were spread between the other schools within the district, but nothing really to report on there.
Yeah. Let's talk about the budget.
Kelly, you know these go on.
Yep, let's talk about that button.
Right here.
Are you all, I think it's all showing the technology slideshow is showing on your computer right now.
Our screens were on, this is what happens when Anna's not here.
Okay, so just to give the lineup for this evening, we have an all-star lineup for you. It begins with our Director of Technology, where we'll go through the technology budget. We had planned this budget deliberation season by way of looking at it systematically through the district. So initially in January came the recommendation that both I, as well as your business manager, had provided for you. Then the second meeting of January were the deliberations of which we brought the departments, the school departments forward. And also with it's tangentially connected with curriculum and instruction. Now we move to central office. And so this evening, you will first have a presentation on our technology department budget. Following this presentation, we're going to give a presentation on our facilities. Once that presentation is completed, we'll give a presentation on special education. And once that's completed, we will then give an overview of district operations. And then we're going to open it up for further conversations and deliberations. But each of your department leads did a wonderful job in preparing their presentations. And I think you're going to find these tremendously informative.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So what I planned to do this evening is just give you an overview of what our technology department does. I don't often come to speak to you about what it is we actually do in technology and address some of the drivers of our budgetary changes that we see coming next year. So first off, we're going to just talk about who is so our technology department, we have myself, we have a network specialist, Dryden. We have an IT security technician who oversees the majority of our trouble tickets, break fix work, but also oversees the electronic access control system for the school district. So all the key fob entries and badging. We have a full-time Chromebook technician, and then we have a high school device coordinator who is also our webmaster. Then we have a part-time person who manages state reporting and does a lot of work in our student information system, PowerSchool. And then each year we try to hire interns to help us with summer work, which then turns into part-time jobs during the school year doing break fix work, updates, projector cleanings, and routine maintenance. This last summer, we were actually one short because one of our seniors graduated high school and the following Monday had a full-time job as a technician at a local company as a computer technician. So with just his high school training through our internship program, landed a full-time job doing that kind of work. We did have the opportunity to hire 3 interns. Normally, I like to have 2 during the school year, but we were able to hire 3. And so this year we have 2 seniors and a junior. My plan is to hire 1 more sophomore turning junior towards the end of the school year. And then at the end of the summer, we'll just be down to 2 interns, a senior and a junior, and then continue that trend where we hire 1 new staff member each June, and then have 2 part-time during the school year. These are probably nothing new to you guys. Who is the school district? It's clearly all the schools. And then we also have our offices at 94 Main Street. That's where the IT department is housed out of, as well as the academy on the 1st floor and the learning center. The student number, as Dr. Van Tassel just mentioned, is kind of a moving target, but it's roughly 1660 at this point. Over 400 staff members with accounts. And we do also support parents, which might not be something that's well known, but we do have several systems that parents utilize that the IT department supports. Specifically though, at the high school, our high school mobile device coordinator / webmaster is stationed out of the high school library. So she also assists with as a paraprofessional in the high school library. And then at the middle school, our Chromebook technician starts each day at the middle school, has a small office in the library there where students come to him during homeroom flex in first period with any Chromebook issues. They can get a loaner at that time. And so all of the repairs at those 2 buildings are facilitated by those 2 staff members. And then right after that, that Chromebook technician will go to Memorial and Center School, pick up Chromebooks, do loaners as needed at those locations. So what do we maintain? I'm not going to go through this list. So I think it's, and you have all this as a printout. These are all just the different types of systems that we handle in-house. So with that department that I just mentioned, these are the systems that we maintain. To keep track of it all, we do use a ticketing system. In the top right corner of the slide, you'll see a synopsis of the tickets that came in and out of the system just during January. I would say probably 60% of those tickets are Chromebook related. Just the number of devices is extensive, that whether it's a battery that's failed after 2 years because of just that's the life expectancy of them, or a screen's been broken, or keys are missing, or any number of things that can be an issue. Those are the types of numbers that we get coming in and out of the system each week. And if you focus in on that last line, the PowerSchool, ParentSquare, Zonar, MyView, and FMX, as I mentioned before, those are systems now that touch the community, where we actually support those systems for parents, for staff, and the community at large with this new system, FMX, that I'll talk a little bit more about. This is just a slide that is a constant work in progress, and I apologize for not having this in the original packet. So these are all systems that include student data. So when we talk about PII, or personal identifiable information, that we have to keep tight reins on because of that's what's best for students and privacy, but it's also mandated by the state. These are all the different systems that contained PII and how they synchronize with each other. So at the very beginning, it starts with an IT staff person taking data that's given to them by the schools, entering into PowerSchool and Active Directory, and then those all sync out to other programs. And these are all systems that happen automatically, but didn't always happen automatically. As long ago as probably 6 years ago, almost none of these synchronized with each other. So these are all improvements that have been made over the years in order to create efficiency and less room for error in typing things in incorrectly. Still down in the bottom right corner, you'll see a list of things that are still done manually. So these are typically accounts and information that are exported from PowerSchool or Active Directory and then imported into those systems. projects that the IT department has worked on just this year. Every year over the summer, we deploy 3 grade levels worth of Chromebooks, which means taking back 3 grade levels worth of Chromebooks. We take back all Chromebooks except at the high school. We clean them, we re-inventory them, we relabel them because they are going to end up in a new homeroom each year. We assess them for damages, we fix them, we invoice families for repairs for damages that are done. Then at the elementary schools, we upgraded the RAM in all of the laptops this last year because they were in great need of it to keep running for another year, hopefully 2. We replaced the rest of the projectors at the center school. That was a capital project that we've been working towards for the last few years. You can see a before and after picture of one of the projection systems at the center school and the remarkable improvement that replacement has made. We upgraded the 2 servers that we have for storage of video for all of our video surveillance systems. IT department does oversee the video surveillance systems for the district. So we went from about 30 days worth of storage to about 45 days worth of storage, and that's with additional cameras having been added. The next one, security camera upgrades. We also do all of the installations for security cameras. And so with the weather turn, we still have a bunch of exterior cameras to add at the high school and memorial school. Most of the wiring is already in place. It just means getting up on a ladder or in the lift in order to get up there. And the weather has not really been allowing of that since the fall. FMX for facility scheduling, that's a project that Steve Fontanelle and I have been working on for a few months now, converting the building use process to an online platform so that approvals happen digitally. And it's a system that we spent a lot of time working together on with a great team of users from each building. That focus on the facilities use in their buildings, and we are officially live with it and scheduling for each of the buildings in that. However, we don't have it fully opened up to the public with instructions on how to use it, so that's why that one's still got an asterisk next to it, because it's not quite complete. This year, we went completely digital with our report cards and progress reports. The first term, we did send them out both digitally and on paper, but we just sent out the high school report cards and middle school report cards over the last 2 weeks completely digitally with no paper copies. And the amount of time saved by doing that is substantial, as well as the postage and printing. It's no small thing. So that's a huge efficiency gainer. And using the same system in ParentsWare, we're going to be able to further enhance savings by just eliminating as many postage related mailings as possible. One of the things that we try to do is continually improve systems. So Karen Aceta and a team of us have been working on utilizing the system Red Rover to improve our hiring system. The last of the frontline systems we use, called AppleTrack, is a system widely used throughout the state for hiring. However, the system we've been using, Red Rover, for time and attendance has been fantastic to work with. And we're now moving to them also for their hiring system, which is great. That's a project in process right now. Another summer project, these are in order only visually so that they fit under the picture in the corner there. So don't think it's priority or timeline. We did replace all the computers at the Learning Center. That was a capital project over the summer. We have major replacements at the high school and memorial schools. That's another capital project that was 60% reimbursed by E-rate funds. Total, the project would have cost the district, I think, around $135,000, but instead came in around $65,000 since we are E-rate eligible and went through the process of applying and bidding. We were able to this summer utilize the Chromebooks that had come off the cycle. We repaired about 70 devices, maybe 80 devices, and deployed them into classrooms at the high school and middle school to help use this SmartPass SmartPass kiosk. That's the system those schools use for passes. So rather than hall passes, Smart Pass was implemented last year, but kids had to use their own devices in order to generate a pass. Now each classroom has a kiosk, which really makes that process work a lot smoother. And kids now don't have a reason to have their Chromebook out on their desk unless the teacher specifically needs them to have a Chromebook for classwork. The Zonar MyView app was the app that we went live with at the very beginning of the school year that allows parents to monitor the buses that their kids are on. So they know they can set up alert zones so that when a bus passes the alert zone, they'll get a signal. They'll know that the bus is just either a few minutes away or 10 minutes away, depending on where they put that alert zone. They can also see when the bus leaves the school and when it gets to the school. So they can really keep tabs on where the bus is with their child on it. That program has been great. I have to give tons and tons of credit to M&J. The dispatcher there who manages the system on their end has been fantastic about keeping it up to date, responding to questions. Just really, we couldn't have had that system go live without her over at M&J. And then last thing on the projects, though, there's probably more I left off. We do also have milestones, so security camera view stations in all of the principal's offices now. We have them in the main offices that show exterior views of the perimeter of the school. And then we also have in the principal's office, view stations that are set up with cameras in the interior of the school so that they can always have eyes on what's going on inside their building. We decided to set up separate stations so that they wouldn't have to be signing in and out of them every time they docked their laptop. So they all have static systems now in their offices that helps to maintain security. So definitely not going to go too deep in on this one. This is what I'm calling a snapshot of our software and licensing. So the software and licensing is really our biggest operating cost, and it's mostly recurring costs that happen from year to year. This is things like PowerSchool and Munis, Naviance, and all those systems that you saw in the slide where things get synchronized. If it's a website, if it's a web resource, if it's a piece of software license, it's in here. And what we do each year, we do our best guess to figure out what's going to increase and what's not, and come up with kind of a number to figure out, to try to plan for the next year. We also, we look at systems like PowerSchool, which this year, we knew about it back in January or February when they sent us their quote, hit us with an 8% increase in their costs. It's the largest increase that we had from any other vendor. They did it to school systems across Connecticut. We were not alone in that. Tons and tons of us, complained to PowerSchool. They did not listen to our complaints, not even a little bit. And so many of us are looking at alternative student information system vendors. Unfortunately, there are not very many that operate in Connecticut and do all of the same functionality of PowerSchool. So it's unfortunately a rock and a hard place with student information systems. And another one that I included in the top there, Munis is a system that we use for all of our financials. That one was up just under 5% for the year. So you take those two big numbers and get a 6.6% increase. That's something that we just pretty much have to live with. But one of the things we always do is we look at our systems, we look to see if there's savings. We were using a backup system that came into the district as part of the high school building project. Called a Datto, which is like the physical backup of all our servers, which then backs up to the cloud. We were paying close to $25,000 a year for that system. After doing a lot of evaluating of alternatives and looking at the pluses and minuses of managing it in-house versus having a vendor do it for us, we're now looking at a system that we manage in-house for $5,357 a year instead of $25,000 a year, saving us about $20,000. And then that helps to offset when we add new systems like Alertus, which is the software that we now use for in-house red alert notifications on computers, as well as the FMX facilities scheduling system. So we try to use any savings like that to offset the increases of other systems like PowerSchool, but then also to try and stay innovative and keep moving ahead with systems. And some costs neutral, moving from frontline to Red Rover hiring. That was a great system because it's fairly cost neutral for us, but we're going to have improved services from it. And then we did save a little bit by switching from a system called Impero to GoGuardian Teacher, which is a system that the teachers all use to monitor the Chromebook screens of the students in their classrooms. And then the last slide I have here, I believe I presented the capital plan for next year. But these are really, capital is where the majority of our hardware and our projects come into play for technology. They go through the town's capital committee, they come to you, then to the town capital committee, then to the board of finance, then to the town council, before going on to a referendum. So in the capital committee meetings, we did agree to only fund half of the elementary teacher laptops that I had budgeted for next year. That means that the remainder of them will be pushed to the following year, and then the rest of the laptops that I have in the 5-year rotation will all get pushed back another year. So we'll be expecting 6-year lifespan from all of the laptops that we currently have in production. We have the final phase of the projector replacements at the high school. That's replacing all of the projectors that were put in during the building project with the new Epson BrightLinks that we've been putting in all of the schools. That's still in there. We have a phone system update that nobody really wants to do, but unfortunately it's necessary at the high school. And then several other security related items that we've already spoken about, and I'm trying to be sensitive of the time, so I'll just run right through here. The last thing that we did decide to cut was a third network video recorder for the security system, for the video surveillance system. So right now we have 2 that each handle about 65 cameras each. So anytime there's any maintenance that needs to be done on either of those servers, we have to shut them down completely and not record on those cameras during that service window, which means it has to be done outside of any kind of normal operating hours. It can't even really be done during the evenings because we have activities happening in the schools all the time. So that's typically weekends or late night or early morning or holiday service work. So the third system was designed to allow us to move cameras to a third server while doing maintenance on another server. So it's something that we can live without. We decided we'll live without, and we did cut that from the capital plan. Okay, that's it. Do you want me to forward it, or do you have the next other part? I have the next slide. Thank you, everybody.
I have a question. I have a couple questions.
Oh,
Go for it.
Real quick, I was looking at your software. I don't see Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint.
Yep.
Do we license those?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I had to do a snapshot, and so I ended this back right down in January, but I just actually got our renewal from Microsoft, which includes all of our server licenses, Office, and it's flat this year. It was 14,000 last year, and it's 14,000 again this year. I just got the quote today.
Okay, and we'll follow. Do we teach classes or courses on those programs to the students? Microsoft Word, Excel, and PowerPoint.
I don't think we teach those as specific as actual courses. They are integrated into many different courses at the high school and the business department. But we do actually do quite a bit of Google Docs and slides and sheets throughout the district, since all students have Chromebooks. So no, to answer your question, no, we're not teaching specifically Word or Excel or PowerPoint, but more presentation skills and how to do the research and organize it into a.
So it's sort of kind of by osmosis.
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Rich, I know some districts, like, because state reporting is so cumbersome, they subcontract. Do we subcontract for state reporting?
No,
We don't.
for, so I guess there's a lot of different areas for state reporting, but you're talking about, just like student information, yeah, the PSIS, no, we don't subcontract for PSIS.
So we don't pay anyone else to do any of our state reporting that's done by your staff?
Mine and central office, yeah. Shelley.
So we have two real factors of that. So I think the largest amount of data pull that we do as a district is to the student information system. And that is carried out by a member of his team. We also have special education data that there's a lot of correspondence or data that is collected based on that. And we have somebody that works in our pupil services department who actually handles that element of it. And then we also have federal data collection, and yours truly at the end of the table here is submitting that 600 page material for the civil rights data collection. So we have not contracted outside. We have maintained those services as a district, but you are very correct in saying that there are districts that will outsource that. But we have found that having our own, doing it within, we've been able to manage it.
Okay.
Nancy, I have a couple quick things. On the snapshot of software and licensing slide, in the vendor column, what are all those references to Bank of America?
So the town has provided me with a Bank of America P card. So lots of server systems like GoDaddy will only accept payment with a credit card. And so when it says that, that means it was a charge made on the credit card and then categorized into the system.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if this falls to you or not, but it's not mentioned in your presentation, but we do spend money somewhat steadily, it seems, in the budget on computer consulting services. Can you talk about that, what that is?
I think that's the same account as the software and licensing. It's called the computer consulting line item.
Thank you.
Karen's
nodding. Right. Really just software. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. This is gonna be very similar to Rich's to start off. Since I started working here, I don't think I've taken the opportunity to tell you, who we are, what we do. So we're gonna do that to start with, and then we'll move forward through it. Okay, so we have myself, we have secretary, 4 first shift custodians, 1 mid shift custodian, 9 second shift custodians. I'm gonna incorporate the town in this a little bit too, because it is part of what our department does. So we have 2 town custodians. Then we have a small pool of substitute custodians that we pull from in case of illness or absence from the main custodians. This number is about 3 short of when before I started working here. So we are definitely down 3 custodians. But we're getting by with this, what we have here. And then I just wanted to highlight that we've taken a lot of, so we used to have, 4 or 5 electricians, 4 or 5 plumbers. We've consolidated everything down into, 1 carpenter, handyman, 1 electrician, 1 HVAC guy, 1 plumber. What it does is allow us to buy more in volume and reduce our prices. We also have many other various technical contractors for facility functions. Those are building management systems, well pumps, alarm systems, sprinkler systems, things like that. But we've managed to try and keep the business local. It helps in response time. We love supporting local businesses. Here are some of the buildings that we do. I'm going to run through all of them real quick here for you, because it's both town and Board of Education. So we have the town hall, police department, library and senior center, ambulance facility, fire companies 1, 2, and 3, Sears Park, Department of Public Works. And on the Board of Education side, we support the high school, middle school, center school, memorial school, 94 Main and Transition Academy, and the Learning Center. So quite a full plate. This is an important slide here. Since our department supports both town and Board of Education, we've been able to build some strong relationships between all the departments. We've had many very fluid lines of communication with Dennis, the police department, as well as Matt in the Department of Public Works, and many other departments. These relationships help all of us enhance safety, security, snow removal, field use, and any other interdepartmental projects or programs we participate in together in an effort to serve the community on a united front. And as Dr. Van Tassel said earlier, there's a focus on how community agencies work together to serve the community, and it's my job to foster that bridge that makes it all happen. What we maintain, just like Rich did, I'm not gonna go through all of that, you guys can see that for yourselves, so I'm probably left off a couple things, but it is quite a long list. And then here's some recently completed projects that we've done in fiscal year 25. So we've replaced the main potable water mixing valve at the high school. We've abated and installed new flooring on the 8th grade hallway at middle school. We've remodeled family consumer science at the middle school. We've refinished and repainted the gym floor at middle school, recoated the new gym floor at center school, updated boiler controls, temperature sensors, and control valves at center school. We've replaced carpeting with new vinyl no-wax floors in the hallways between the knuckles at Memorial School as an ongoing project. We've replaced the slide playscape at Memorial School thanks to the PTO. We've installed new hot water tanks at Memorial School. Many district-wide safety and security upgrades. We've replaced the town library siding and flooring, installed new keyless entry systems so the residents can have access to the community room after library hours. We've installed new cameras at the library and senior center, as well as Sears Park. We've also installed a new fire alarm at Sears Park. Here's some before and after pictures. So this is Memorial School carpeting before. It's about 40-year-old carpeting. Very hard to clean, especially in an elementary school. So we've replaced them with no wax floors that we can run our floor scrubber over now. So when we get a call for a spill or another instance, it's much easier to clean it up. And every night they run that floor scrubber with a pad on it, almost like a magic eraser. So this thing is clean all the time. It smells good all the time. It's just such a nice upgrade to go along with the LED lighting that we put in that school too. So the whole place looks really, really good. This is the middle school gym floor that we did this summer. So these are before and after pictures of this. So the flooring was buckled because we had the roof would leak in there pretty badly. So there was a tremendous amount of water damage. So since we put the new roof on, we thought the next step would be to go ahead and turn the gym floor into this. So we changed the color of all the lines. We made it match the logo. We put the new logo in the middle of the floor. And it's extremely popular with everybody that gets to use it. This is the family consumer science room at the middle school. Here we took away all the old ovens, the 1960s, 70s ovens, and we put in one big convection oven for them. We replaced the ovens with stainless steel tables. I think it was the PTO that donated the microwaves, right? And mixers. And we're gonna put some induction hot plates in there, I think, for next year. So it's really a fully functional family consumer science now. There's also a commercial refrigerator that got installed too, through a grant that the food director was able to, nutrition director rather, was able to provide for us. Here is a list of the capital proposals that I put in for this year. I'm not gonna go through them all, but I will go through the next slide. There we go. So I'll explain this a little bit. The highlighted yellow I had proposed in our 2026 capital. But then it is actually leftover roof money that was already allocated for that floor. So we were able to pull that number out of my total. And the rest of the stuff you can see highlighted in red. So we were able to, the numbers that are on this are not accurate. The ones you guys have in front of you are the correct numbers. So we went from a $649,000, and we're asking right now at $320,000. This last slide I have for you, there's been trending cuts to our facilities budget over the last 3 or 4 years. I just wanted to share this. This is our capital in 2023, fiscal year 2023. We have $50,000 in a capital fund to replace catastrophic failures such as motors, fans, blowers, computers, things on these HVAC units that fail. And when they fail, they're $5,000, $10,000 at a clip. That number was cut to $25,000 in 2024, And this year I have $0 to do anything with that. So I proposed $25,000 for 2026 to help us combat the catastrophic failures such as the ones below. Funds have been moved from facilities operating budget at a time when prices continue to climb. So proposing the 2026 operating budget, you're gonna see a modest increase to cover some of these climbing prices as that budget has been done over the last few years as well. So, you know, prices keep going up and we're trying to combat that a little bit, so. At the very bottom of the slide is the last point I'd like to make in regards to that. So there's an 8-day snapshot right there in January. So the Memorial School RTU blower motor failure, pump 3 in the well room at the high school failed. We had a valve failure at the high school and a glycol leak all over the floor. We had frozen pipes in the boiler room at Center School because we had a fan not shut off and it sucked in all that 4-degree air that we had for a few days. So it froze the sprinkler system as well as the heat. We had a DOA, a dedicated outdoor air system at the high school fail, and we had to replace a motor and 3 sensors. We also had an exit lighting failure at the high school auditorium, which was an expensive custom fixture installed when the building was remodeled. So the total in that 8-day window was about $25,500, of which it had to come out of obviously operating because we don't have the capital fund for it, which is why we're asking just for the $25,000 back and a little bit of additional operating in that operating budget. That's all I have for you guys. Any question? All right. Thank you, guys.
Steve.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to go over some of the slides. I think you've seen many of these before in our previous budget books of the cost avoidance that some of our programs have versus outplacements. All of our programs that we have are to provide continuous support for students. And most of the programs are for students, if we didn't have this type of programming, would otherwise be outplaced. So I'll do a quick overview of some of the programs. I'm sure many of you are aware of these, but I'll do a quick overview. So our STEPS program is serves about 41 students across the district employing principles of applied behavior analysis to guide decision-making in academic and social development, as well as providing behavior support. The science of systematically applies the principles of behavior analysis to prove socially significant behaviors to meaningful extent, and key practices in the ABA include functional behavior analysis and discrete trial. Historically, many of our high needs students were outplaced after they completed Memorial School, and we didn't have that type of programming once they got to Center School. Over the years, we've gradually expanded our STEPS program to Center School, middle school, and then the high school. And since doing that, we've only had 1 student that receives this type of program needed to be outplaced. So it's had a pretty big impact on our students. And as I always say, the best thing about that is they're educated in their home school. They're not bused half hour, 45 minutes away to other programs. And I think all of our students deserve to be educated in their home school. STARS School-Based Therapeutic Program. We currently have 21 students across the district with a capacity of 6 per building. With that said, we are over capacity in some regards. In some of our schools, we have more than 6 students, but we try to keep it at 6 students. It is designed to support students who experience persistent, significant challenges in regulating their behavioral, and emotional responses. To assist these students, the program makes use of various strategies, including principles of ABA, to guide decision-making, collaborative and proactive solutions model for engaging students in problem solving, counseling, and social skills training, as well as academic instruction tailored to each student's unique profile. So again, this serves our students that need more of a school-based therapeutic type program. And since we started the school-based therapeutic programs, we've also had 8 students that have moved into district that were previously outplaced in their other districts, and they were able to attend school in our schools. in the school-based therapeutic programs. Sometimes it took a year before we transitioned them in, but we've had 8 students that have been able to be supported in district that were outplaced prior to moving to East Hampton. And the Learning Center. This is our alternative high school and serves the communities of East Hampton and East Haddam. It's a collaborative program with East Haddam. And the students attend the TLC when they face challenges that make it difficult to succeed in the larger high school setting. Offers personalized services to address each student's unique learning style with the ultimate goal in reintegrating them into their district high school. And the TLC has a maximum student capacity of 12 students, so each East Haddam and East Hampton are both allocated 6 slots. And with the Learning Center and the STARS program, our goal is always to move students gradually to a least restrictive environment. So our students will, like at the Learning Center, might take 1 or 2 classes at the high school and then eventually move fully back to the high school. And the same with the STARS program. Students that might not be attending any classes might gradually attend 1 class, 2 classes, and we've had some students that have we've faded all support for them and they no longer require that level of support and they're, don't require the attendance in the STARS program anymore. So these slides, I think are similar to what you've seen in past years. These graphs illustrate the cost avoidance of the unique programs within our school district. The charts and all the slides that I'm going to show, the first column represents what would be the cost to the town after available reimbursement from the state, which is referred to excess cost. I think you heard Dr. Van Tassel talking about that quite a bit. Excess cost covers approximately 68% of expenses over and above the 4.5 times the per pupil expenditure of East Hampton. So again, the first column indicates what we would pay if these students were outplaced, and the orange highlighted graph shows what we actually are paying in staffing needs for students to be supported in school. And then the third column is the after tuition offsets. We don't have a lot of tuition students at this current time, and a lot of that has to do with the capacity. Again, we try to limit our STARS programs to 6 students per school, and we're at capacity. And then again, with the ABA program, it's a matter of space and capacity, and we don't have a lot of space. Staffing's been challenging as well. Right, and this just breaks down specifically the steps, the step ABA cost comparison for each school. And that breaks down this cost avoidance for the STARS program at each school. Okay. And then we have this slide that shows the percent of outplaced education students by year. And it's gone down, and then it's been creeping back up. And I'm going to show that the next slide I'm going to show kind of shows some of where those placements are coming from. Right now we have 16 students that are outplaced, and we're estimating 16 students for next year. But I don't have a crystal ball, and we could have 3 students move into district that are outplaced and need a high level of care tomorrow. So we're always, it's kind of a moving target, and we also have students that are outplaced that we're hoping to bring back into district based on their current functioning. All right, and then this last slide just shows the distribution of out of district placements by the type. So 25% of our outplaced students are state placements. We have no control over that. They are placed by DCF or recently certificate of need. So they're in ER, and the psychiatrist says that they need a higher level of care, and he places them at a program, and the district is responsible for them. I think Dr. Van Tassel recently shared with you that we did work with the state, with our attorney's assistants, to have certificate of needs recognized as a state placement. So it's we receive excess cost after one time, the per pupil cost. So that has been somewhat helpful to offset some of that, but we have no control over that. We have 19% were outplaced prior to moving into district. And those are students that we were not able to move into our district programs based on the level of care that they required. Another 6% were placed for other than educational reasons. and then about 50% the district placed. And, you know, we do have a very continuum of support for our students throughout the district. Students in our programs are students that would most likely be outplaced if we didn't have those programs. And we really, you know, we really only place students if we cannot provide the level of care that they need. And or we, you know, there are significant safety risks to our other students or staff at the time. And they need a higher level of care for a period of time anyway.
Question for Ron.
Yeah, you mentioned one of the limitations is space.
Yep.
Is this at the Learning Center, 94 Main Street? Where is the space today?
Well, if you go into Memorial School and you go into our ABA programs, you know, we have over 20 students and there's a lot of classrooms that are already occupied. If we had 3 more classrooms, then we would have more space and, you know, we could consider that.
Have you considered going to like 94 Main Street or someplace where there is more space available?
I don't think there is more space than we're at capacity at those locations. So the Learning Center at the Golf House, we're at capacity, we're full. The Learning Center is a transition program that's for students that have completed their high school credits and they are eligible for transition programming until they either are capable of obtaining a job or they move into adult services. I mean, I would love it if we had more space.
I think
That's kind of
if I
where
could speak to that just a little as well, and I think that's a good conversation is that you do weigh the costs of the locations for where those programs are and where he's sharing with you the programs that are pre-existing. We're at capacity based on the spaces that we have available within the schools. So you've utilized the real estate that you have and you have now outsourced some elements where you had 94 Main Street, which is where you have your ECDC program that runs in the first floor of that, of which a business manager has said this past week has done really a very thorough kind of analysis of the costs associated with that. And because that's been a building that's been within the Board of Education, but also the town, there are very minimal expenses to the tune of $16,000 for that particular space there. The Golf House, which is where the TLC program is, you have a wonderful agreement with the Golf House, and that is that you have the downstairs to the right, and they've actually given accessibility for the program to run some functions and meetings in a neighboring room that's by just agreement that's been made there. They can't occupy that space permanently, but certainly can be used for meetings and conferences, and they've utilized those. But that Golf House, which is being used by TLC, is at full capacity there. But I believe business manager said, I think it's about a $40,000 cost annually for the utilization of that facility. And Pupil Services Director Bozier has had the reach out from the ECDC program when they started utilizing what the old town hall was. Because there have been space there at one point in time. I'm not certain that there's space there further, but those come at significant costs. So when you start to weigh, if you're gonna get the rentals of the facilities, it's gonna cost a lot. 94 Main isn't costing you an awful lot because that building is pre-owned by the community. But any other space, so like the Golf House, this has been a long-standing relationship with the school district. They've been really wonderful to the school district through the years. At $40,000, that's a good rate based on what real estate is for commercial. So looking elsewhere is where it gets very expensive, and you have to do the cost benefit analysis of program increases versus cost of what we may have to do to provide that space. And once again, the space within your schools is really at that capacity right now to service programs the way that they are and how they're sized. That's a good question, though. Good question. Yeah.
That's good.
We had talked, I think, last meeting about the loss of tuition revenue. Is that something that's unpredictable? Based on somebody moving or needs changing?
Well, those are students from other districts that are attending our programs. So it is unpredictable. I mean, I've had a couple people come to me recently that have looked into it, but you know, number one, we were full, like the middle school. or already over capacity. And then we also have to look at the needs of the student and whether we feel like it, you know, we could support them in the public school setting based on the dynamics of the program.
Okay, and the personnel resources are just redeployed to serving the students in our district already who need the services, right? So
Yes, yeah.
we're maxed out. Is
We're
basically the
maxed
theme
out.
of-
You know, there is a need in the state and I, you know, I'm sure for outplacements, you know, when we've had a need for outplacements, it's taken months because they're full. Or they'll say, we have an opening, but we have to hire staff first, so you have to wait. If we had extra classrooms and extra staff, we could probably have more tuition students, but you know, that also, it's not just those staff members that impacts, right? So if you put a program like that at Memorial School, that impacts your occupational therapists, your physical therapists, speech and language, psychologists, your administrative team, your teachers, it's an impact on everyone in the school. So, you know, it's an immediate impact with the staffing for the students, the paras and the teachers, but then the community of the school as well.
I can just speak to that question as well. So perhaps in district, we may not have the capacity to do something. But as part of the governor's bill proposal, the governor's budget proposal was to set aside funds that we had heard about this at the legislative breakfast, that they want to create a grant program for districts that do want to do cooperative program together, that they may have a grant that would become available to school districts. So perhaps, and one of the great things with Mr. Moser is he connects with all the pupil services directors in this region. So perhaps we may not have a location here, perhaps a neighboring district, and I say this hypothetically speaking, perhaps Portland as a space where they're willing to operate that program. These pupil services directors will work closely because it will be far less expensive at the end of the day to do it in a public school system than it is going to be in a private school system. So if there is grant funding that becomes available for this, I can assure you, they will be working very closely with one another to figure out who might be able to take this and what funding could be available to support it, which then could offset some of the costs. But altogether, it is always a lot less expensive when you send them to local school district internal programs than to private programs. And the risks right now are where we also have students that go to. EastCon is a risk of which they provide a program. We have a few students who are, at least one I know, perhaps two, that are doing through the EastCon program. Because that's a quasi-public agency, those are also a lot less expensive than what you're going to expend on some private program. So there's some opportunities that could be coming our way. And I just know that they have been talking about this amongst themselves as directors.
I have a quick question. For the classroom with the students with autism, what are you guys using for curriculum? I see the ABA piece of it, but what is the actual curriculum that they're using in there?
So that's a good question. In fact, we just met with EastCon this past Wednesday. So the what we're finding as a whole is there is not a functional curriculum. There's not a really good functional curriculum out there. We were meeting with EastCon. We were doing a program review with them at our Memorial School, and that actually came up. I was asking them, like, what curriculum are you using? What do you guys recommend? And they also kind of like laughed and they said there's not a specific curriculum. We do incorporate essentials of living. We integrate that into the curriculum. But we are, I raised my hand when we were meeting with that because they said they are working on developing curriculum. And they were looking, they wanted to pilot the schools. So I asked them if they had anyone yet and they said no. So we volunteered. And we had our first meeting this past Wednesday. So we're going to be working with them to develop that curriculum. We had already started that process for our secondary level with one of our teachers to develop that functional curriculum at the secondary level. And I think that's going to be our focus as we get started. But there's there's not really a specific curriculum that we're using. Other than embedding the integrating essentials of living curriculum right now.
One thing is, I don't know if anyone knows, or maybe I'm wrong. I thought there was a building in school over in Middle Haven of a 151. I was down there. Someone said, oh, that was an old school, years ago. I'm talking decades ago, it's been abandoned. I was wondering if anyone knew about that. Is that, I mean,
Privately owned.
it's privately owned? Yeah.
Thank you, Rod. Appreciate it.
So after the other presentations, I'm just gonna kind of bring you back to the big picture of what is really driving our budget. You know, we are the largest employer in this community and in the touching communities of Portland, East Haddam, and Marlboro. And of course, as you know, it takes the people to do the services that we have to provide. And on our biggest individual line is the certified salary line. And this represents 167 teachers next year, 9 administrators, a superintendent, and 25 to 30 coaches that have educator permits in the state of Connecticut. This increase of 875,000, almost 70% of it is just the general wage increase, which is 3.5% for teachers and 2% for administrators. And the general wage increase also applies to other the stipends for athletics or curriculum stipends or hourly rates paid to teachers. There's just a couple other things that are the major drivers. The step increase is also next year, and then the expiration of the funding for the school mental health worker, and then there is one elementary teacher being removed in next year's budget. Classified salaries is the next biggest line in the budget. And there's a lot more action in this line. We just completed 507 W-2s for the district for last year, and about 290 people are in this line. And they range from myself and Rich and Steve we had 25 W-2s that were for less than $1,000. So for substitutes primarily that don't work very many days in the year. So there's an awful lot of variability and a lot of different groups represented in this line. So the general wage increase is the same next year for all the settled contracts. We will be working on the interventionist contract very soon. So that is, an unknown at this point. And there's also no step increase next year, but we're still getting a lot of a significant raise for other issues. The tuition loss, which I'll also go in my last slide tonight, for substitutes, we're increasing that based on history and the current projection for this year. We added one BCBA position this year, although it was planned in this current year budget, it was planned as a professional service. 2 pairs have been added this year, and, yeah, in the past, for pairs and interventionists, in the recent past, we had very high turnover, especially through COVID. And so we built into the forecast in the past, the assumption that we would not be able to fully staff these roles throughout the year. But Rod's gotten very good at that this year, and he's is much more efficient at getting folks hired. And the next biggest line is our healthcare. And I just want to emphasize that we've really done a lot to try to control this cost. And we have to appreciate the sacrifice and the patience and the flexibility of our staff, because they have changed their health insurance completely every one of the last 2 years and again in 2025. I mean, and that's a big change for people with families that are depending on us for this benefit. But we have never been silent on this issue since back in we had already been to a high deductible plan before. Then when we had a large increase with that, we moved to the Connecticut Partnership Plan, which is a very rich design, and how that could be less expensive than a high deductible plan. That's how it worked out. But then since 2017, we've completely shut down the option for folks to have anything other than individual health insurance without a full buy-up to 2-person or family health insurance. And that is the way it works for our paras, our interventionists and cafeteria folks. And that makes the cost of any one of those people to be very relatively low, especially compared to, like, if we were to send for an outplaced student and they need a para at another location, out at the school where they go to, probably costs twice as much as what we would pay for a para here in our home district. Yeah, we left the partnership in 2023. We joined with a group of 11 other districts and went to a United Healthcare plan. This followed in 2022. The partnership had originally made us a forecast of an 8% raise, and then they came right after we were all done with the budget, and they went to a 10.5% raise. And so we began to look at other options, and that's when we moved in 2023. That only lasted a year before we had a 23% increase from United Healthcare, and then we moved again to Anthem. Now, the issue that we have is they created the rate increase with a one-time credit. And that, so that our contractual rates for next year had a 11% cap, but it's really a 15% increase above what it is that we are actually paying this year. And we shared that savings with our employees as well. So beginning with the teacher negotiations, over the summer, we have returned to a high deductible plan. And with that, we're anticipating less than a 4% increase above last year's, or this current year's cost. We're still seeing a increase in the budget more than that, because this year's budget is not enough for what we're paying and for the people that are in the plan now. So just to further illustrate these are the actual rates that we've been provided by our consultant at this point. It's looking like we will be at the max cap that we had agreed to in the current year contract. because our claims are running more than 95% of what, we're paying the insurance company. So, but you can see on this, this slide, which has one different column besides what the one that came home with you on Friday, for you on Friday. If you look at the para and the interventionist line, that there are today 56 paras on the payroll. Yet only 28 of them, or 62.5% of them, are even enrolled in our health plan. And of those, 2/3 are only individual only. Now, the interventionist group is a little bit newer group, so that folks that would have been a para in 2016 or earlier could have had the full health plan and continue in that, well, since it was only for new hires after 2017. And the interventionist was a brand new group. Again, today there's 35 of them, and less than half are on our insurance plan. And of those, all but one are single coverage. So, you know, we've really made every possible effort to control this cost, but it's a challenging one. And then in a whole different vein, you know, we've really made every possible effort to bring in revenue to offset the cost of the programs to our students. And these are the primary programs that we have. The school cafeteria, as you know, is 10 full-time people. They are so dedicated to our students, and you know, during COVID in 2022, we brought in $1.25 million of revenue with the funding that was available at that time. And with all of these revenue programs that are shown here, the expenses cannot exceed the revenue without that coming out of the operating budget. And so they are all interconnected to our operating budget. The school cafeteria has a fund balance so that for the next few years, we should be fine with that program. The athletic participation program, we have not raised rates since 2023 to the families. Yet these programs are so important to the students. You know, they're part of their lifelong wellness, learning self-discipline and having leadership opportunities. And that all of the costs of the coaches are in the operating budget, and whatever is not covered by these fees has to come into the operating budget. And so expenses have gone up, and parts of the transportation and the athletic officials do come into the operating budget. Then the next program, the STARS tuition, you can see there was the decline, and that's what impacted when one student left us, where we had to bring staff into the operating budget. And you know, the STARS tuition, the particular roles that are left being covered by the tuition is not just, these were positions that were, as the budgets were made over the last few years, we said that we would use this tuition to cover 2 teachers and 1 BCBA. All the other positions that were in this fund have been brought into the regular operating budget. And then the Learning Center is one of the first special ed programs where we brought in revenue to offset the program costs. There's a couple other things that I didn't include here. We have a lot of people in this support services department working on Medicaid, and we bring in almost $90,000 last year in Medicaid. And then for the revenue we receive from to cover custodial hours for programs that occur in the school when we don't have our staff on duty. There's another fund which does not bring in that much revenue, less than about $15,000. So that's, that was my big picture and the small picture summary.
Question for Karen. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
That does it for our budget presentations. You have the opportunity to ask specific questions related to what we were presented with. Does anyone have any additional budget questions for this evening?
I just have a question. Were we gonna do, I thought there were additional questions that we didn't get to the last time we were gonna do tonight. No, it wasn't. I thought they were gonna be tied to the special ed presentation.
Questions from the things that were submitted?
Yeah.
So we have, yeah, if I can just speak to that a little bit. So we did, so the Google spreadsheet that's been operating, it's been populated with responses. And in talking with Chair Kohler, if there are particular questions that you would like to ask now to be able to go over those, we certainly can. I did not bring a printout. I can actually, project up on there so we can see responses. But as opposed to going through each and every one of them, if there are particular ones on there that you really would like to have a chance to go through, we certainly can go through those this evening. But we have populated all of the responses onto that Google spreadsheet, and I'll call it up now.
There's something in particular you wanted to address tonight?
No.
Nobody had anything in particular from the list you wanted to talk about. I think we're good then, Dr. Fantasil. Let's leave that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, moving on. Okay, unfinished business. Mr. Barber. 12.1.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education Policy and Curriculum Committee to approve policy 9325.43, attendance at meetings via electronic communication.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Does anyone have future business this evening? Hearing none. New business. You're up again.
My colleagues in front of you, you have a first read of policy 4112.8 nepotism. In the subcommittee, there wasn't a lot of discussion, except for one item, whether or not, immediate family of board members, could be employed within the district. And, we both said, well, the subcommittee voted on a no on that, but that was the one point of any discussion, so. Anybody else want to chime in? This is your first read, time to talk about it.
Yeah, I actually was going to ask along those lines, just because knowing in the past, relationships that did exist. So I gather the point of this is, it's sort of like almost like a power differential. Is that right? Like,
Well,
hiring.
the thought was that if you had at least, a member of your immediate family in the school system, how could, there's a lot of potential influence that, could be used on that.
More than just like voting on
Well, how do you
salary or
right.
things like that, right?
Well, we were talking about health. You know, we've moved this health plan of these people around all the time. What happens if you don't want to go to this health plan and you decide to either move the agenda or the vote a certain way? So we felt that it was more important to exclude family members, and if somebody really wanted to stay on the Board of Ed so badly and not resign, then they can sort that out in-house.
Yeah, there's a lot of entanglement. What about the opposite then, if a staff member's spouse wants to run for the Board of Ed or
It'd be the same
something like
thing.
that, same?
It'd be the same thing.
Is that spelled out exactly in here?
No issues with that, being an elected position that we can't control.
Well, what would happen is somebody's, as it's written now, somebody's gotta go. So either you're gonna resign from your job, or you're going to, well, let's put it this way. How would that work? You would have somebody in your family. No, you'd have a staff member in the school. And one of their family members would run. So either somebody's gotta go, you're either gonna take the seat with all its glory and honor and benefits. Or you're gonna have to terminate your job.
But I'm asking, can we do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't at this
Yeah.
particular.
Because what you're doing
And
is
that
you're
was
not,
something that was weighed
Yeah.
heavily because it is often difficult to find people who are willing to run. for
Yeah, we
this
might see
position. Do
Martina
you
run
want
for
to limit your pool?
But I think I also hear what you're saying is that, so. As far as the decision around an elected official, it's out of the purview of the board in the school district. So if that person runs. And the decision is, then it will be that if that person is elected in conflict with the policy, therefore it's gonna have an impact on the employee. Because we don't control the outcome of an election. So going back to what board member Barbara was saying is that it's a decision that really has to be made in-house for that family member, because we can't control the outcome of an election. But we do based on policy have controls within the.
So we would
employee's staff.
terminate an employee if their spouse became an elected board member?
have to.
See that becoming, we can talk about that at the next policy meeting. I see that becoming an issue.
Well, we're part of the problem also, Mike, and you missed that meeting on that one, but there was a lot of discussion over whether you could allow administrators to have their family members in.
Right.
And right now it's set up as long as they don't supervise them, that's fine.
Yeah.
And knowing full well, we brought in the whole idea that teachers, nurses, police, I mean, I've got 3 family members, in the service, and so, they tend to follow these career paths, and you don't want to limit these people coming into the career path or into the system, because it'd be nice to have a couple of legacies. But at this level, where you're determining contract, it's, every year, we've got somebody on this board sitting for contract negotiations with some bargaining in it.
There are also definitions in here, so it does say, with regard to board members, it is an immediate family member,
Yeah.
which is different than a relative, so you're talking child, spouse.
Well, I think we should just eliminate that sentence in its entirety, no immediate family member, but board member. Because the only instance I can think of where we would be directly involved would be under a disciplinary action, and that person should, if it's not written, if it's not spelled out in here, would recuse themselves from any, what do you call it,
A labor matter.
any,
Well,
Well, what if somebody
Judge-
gets, what if there's a principal that's evaluating a teacher and they're not performing to the level they should, but they don't feel comfortable giving them that review, knowing that their spouse or parent or whoever's sitting on the board. So our
we don't get involved in
conversation,
that.
we wouldn't be, but there's influence on that principal, knowing who that person's related to. It's not to say we would be directly involved, but do they feel indirect pressure on that? And so our concern was, is there perceived, there's always that issue of perception, whether it's really happened or not. But when you're talking about integrity or ethics or whatever, you have to think of perception and not just actual misdoing.
let me give you a scenario, Sal.
Yes.
We're all sitting up here on the board, and you're probably gonna have to manage, I don't know, I'm just gonna speculate, you're gonna manage some cuts, and you were really adamant last year about not letting teachers go. Well, what happens if you got a vote? And you're gonna have to say the teachers are gonna go, and one of them is
Relative.
Edie's daughter, Mike's wife, my daughter, whatever else.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? I mean, despite
Well,
whether.
no, but isn't it the superintendent that makes that decision, not us?
Oh, no, it's our vote, buddy, we seal the deal on how much, you know, the final dollar figure. And then we direct the superintendent in certain things.
So wouldn't you recuse yourself from that?
Well, how do you know? You don't have to, because I'm not voting for my relative. You're voting for my relative. All of you would be voting for my relative. And I would hope that you like me enough that you wouldn't send her packing. So, but that's the kind of influence, and what do you, just step down. You know, what are you getting out of this?
There's an advertisement for public service.
Oh, yeah, there is, I mean, exactly. Go to planning and zoning or something, you know?
All right, any more questions or comments on our nepotism policy? We'll revisit it.
One thing that occurred to me, it's not in here, is the perception, especially under budgets where it's very tight and there are potential layoffs, that especially a board chair that has students in the district, that people may try or attempt to reach the board chair through the board chair's siblings. And my thought is to basically spell out that, no board decision, you know, that, I'm thinking, we should basically spell out, don't bother.
This is not
any
employees.
siblings of the board chair
Well,
This is
or
not
a board
employees.
member.
but this is nepotism, Sal. I think you're talking about
Siblings or
influence.
kids? Yeah, influence.
You're talking about influence, political influence
Yeah,
by each member. That's a whole different policy.
that's a line.
So that has nothing to do with the nepotism. Good point,
Yeah.
but, you know, that's another day.
All right, personnel actions this evening, we have none. We are back to audience of citizens.
You're a citizen.
Yes.
It has.
Hello, my name is Nathan Jaycox, and I'm a 30-year resident of this town. I am an engineer by career, currently 18 Brook Hill Drive is where I live. My question is relating to math proficiency, but I want to put some context behind this first. I have recently completed the alternate route to certification and having completed that program, have certification by the state of Connecticut to teach high school physics. I received that in 2022. And I did a student teaching assignment at Middletown High School, so I have some awareness of the educational system in this state and have a renewed interest in trying to understand how it works in my hometown here as well. Looking at the math and science and STEM focus, which is of course my area of most interest. I was looking at some data online regarding the math proficiency, and I noticed that from the lower grades up to the high school, there is a general decrease in math proficiency from 52% of Memorial, 49 to Center, 46 at the middle school, and 37% at the high school. 37% being lower than the Connecticut average across all grades of 40%. So what I was asking now is how is this being addressed, and is there an overall plan to meet or exceed the average math proficiency basically across grades, but in particular the high school?
So it is not typically our policy to respond to the audience of citizens, but we will certainly, Dr. Castle,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
No, Chair. Second.
Oh, well, last time I checked.
Oh.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak? No, hearing none. Dr. Van Tassel, is there anything on the calendar of events you would like to address?
Sure, just a few things. I want to make note, I know, I'll go very quickly with this. So just a reminder that we have professional development this Thursday with both Monday and Tuesday being off as well. And there is, as noted earlier, a Triumph induction that is happening this upcoming Wednesday. And I think that concludes the calendar of events for this evening.
Motion adjourned.
Thank you. Second. Motion is second. I'm gonna guess there's no discussion. All those in favor? Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.